Second.
Okay.
Okay, should be recording. Thank you.
Sure. Okay, Rama, main page. Now, what we realized when we engaged with these crop insurance companies is that we had been very focused on one market segment, i.e. the crop insurance companies. But we realized that that market has some limitations, particularly because these companies are trying to use remote sensing data on their own. So we didn't quite get a grip on that market. And we were thinking beyond what is the kind of depth that we can do by using remote sensing services to apply it over a certain, if you like, vertical application. And we decided to focus on soils to start with as one of the natural, if you like, asset capital classes to start focusing on, but potentially to extend it also beyond other natural capital asset classes. Now, we took soil as a focus because it is something that is where remote sensing can reveal additional soil-specific characteristics that might not even be seen with simple eyes on the ground, such as soil organic carbon, nitrogen content, and some other factors. So that's for one. It's technically an additional capability, and second, it can help on the application side. There's a lot of push towards regenerative agricultural practices for two reasons. One, to make soils more resilient and hence support on the side of climate change adaptation, more resilient against floods, more resilient against droughts. But there's also a push for regenerative agriculture because those farmers or farming cooperatives that engage in regenerative agriculture and that are hence storing soil organic carbon and hence sequestering soil organic carbon from the atmosphere into the soils, they're actually eligible for a carbon certificate because they're helping to mitigate climate change. They're putting carbon where it belongs to, out of the atmosphere into the soil. So we started to look into that one about 6 months ago and defined this one as our current main program. It shall by no means remain the only program, but we started this as our main program or initiative, and we're also about to receive a larger grant on it to see how can we use remote sensing monitoring and coupled with financing mechanisms to help linking smallholder farmers to the global carbon market. If we go to the next slide, what we can see here is to see how remote sensing can act as a measuring, reporting, and verification tool in the area of soil. And we are thinking of this also about other areas, peatland, mangroves, forests, etc. But here we're talking about soil. Now, where does it help? It helps and might generate some income in helping carbon farming FPOs to measure their successes in regenerative agriculture. There are larger programs by, for example, the Nature Conservancy that is doing that, and also as part of the conversations with some other companies here in the accelerator that are doing this, and hence we can measure it. Second one, we can help state governments to better report on their climate mitigation targets, because they also have mitigation targets that they have to report it as part of the international climate change mechanisms, and they also need to do that for soil, just say on the previous page. And third one, they're of course carbon emitters, and many of these carbon emitters will reduce their emissions to a certain degree, but there will be residual emissions that they can't reduce, so they have to buy offset certificates. Now, for some industries like fertilizer seed companies or industries that are in the soil value chain, or industry that procure from farmers, retailers, for example, that procure rice or other goods from farmers, for them it might be, or we think it will be interesting to procure carbon certificates from farmers, from soil sequestration. And this is what Soilify is currently looking into as a market. Next slide, I didn't look at the time, but I'm probably like 3 minutes in. So this is what we want to do. We're currently building a platform, both front end and back end, with providing remote sensing based monitoring on soil organic carbon and on regenerative practices. So the two things you can see based on remote sensing data, and thereby bringing what we believe is more transparency, more real-time monitoring into something which is always more difficult to measure, because you have to do soil samples, you have to go to the lab, somebody can fudge with the data. So that is an increased transparency. That's currently the main value proposition that we're offering. And I think the last and third slide is that if we look at the carbon market on a whole, and I think here referring to some numbers or part of some numbers that the recent McKinsey report put out, is that so we would be helping FPOs that engage into regenerative agriculture to generate carbon credits. We're also starting to speak with the verification agencies, because we have to follow, we have to get our method accredited with a standard setter. So there's Vera or Gold Standard or FAO Rec Soil. Then we monitor the changes in soil organic carbon through the satellite data. And then we seek to generate carbon credits on the basis of it and sell it to carbon emitting companies. And on the pricing, there are many assumptions now, because that's not a market that has found is yet set. But our last slide, so that's, I think the last slide is on the team. We're still building that team also with that particular vertical in mind, because we want to combine remote sensing expertise, linkages to FPOs and the like, because we don't have much agronomic or soil science in-house. But we have the financing angle, and both myself and also Anuj have a background in finance. We have worked on the edges of the carbon market sort of a decade ago, but still we can still have that somewhere in our head and our brains. So that's in a nutshell what we're up to.
Thanks, Michael. I just have one question to take this conversation forward with the mentors. Are there any, challenges, any specific challenges or barriers that you're facing right now that you would like support in, or any growth opportunities?
So there are a few challenging areas where we need to basically have a better understanding of the ecosystem in the larger sense. One is we need to understand what is the attraction of regenerative agriculture to Indian or South Asian farmers, and what are the barriers for them to engage in it. So we started to have some early conversation with not even a handful of FPOs, I think 3 or 4. And to understand this, because we have to understand what are the barriers to engage in. We also have to understand what are the financial barriers. So what are the financial risks that they have to engage in it? I think that's something on the market side that we need to better understand. And the other side is, because if we know what the financial risks are for the farmers, then we also can think about how can we close these risks through financing mechanisms. And what we're thinking about the financing tools would be a lending, so a credit, which we would like to collect through an impact bond, and then through an NBFC maybe to give to farmers. So that's one end. And the other thing is, of course, the carbon market. So we are talking to some carbon project developers and also are about to start conversations with the verifiers. But I think that's another area where we need more of an insight to speak to. Those are the 2 current challenging areas. The remote sensing part we have under control. There we know what the challenges are, we know how to meet them. But those are the main things, I think, on the market side, where this is a young market and not yet mature market that we need to understand, particularly on the FPO and farmer side. And actually, one more thing, not just in India, but also neighboring countries. So we want to also start looking at, of course, India is big enough, but we also want to start looking at understanding what are the peculiarities maybe in Bangladesh or Nepal, starting to have a South Asian view on this.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I'll open the floor for questions or recommendations, suggestions from the mentors.
Okay, so can I go first?
Sure, Raj.
Okay, so very nice, in fact, idea. Remote sensing for carbon credits is actually, I think, it's quite mature idea, if I am sure, because I've seen this idea working in the West, but not in India. So for India, I think this is a good start for you. So that said, I want to know from you that, do you think that India is a mature market to kind of value these things? Like, I don't know, carbon credit is something that was once in vogue, if I know, because one of my friends was working in this through SGS, and it was it was about 15 years back, when there was a huge burgeoning market, and now then the market crashed. So how do you plan to market yourself? This is something that I want to know.
Yeah, no, good
TDM.
point. I was also in my previous professional life, as you said, 15 years ago, I had a lot of touch points with the carbon market. Now, okay, we're taking a bet that the carbon market will take off. I think that's a bet that we can take. That's of course a courageous bet. But if I look at the number of initiatives, also on the voluntary carbon market, that this will take off. Now, it's already taking off in the US and Australia. It's now coming to Europe, and we are confident that it will also come to India. But what we see as potential in India is more the generation of credits. If there would be a purchasing power in India on the credits, that we're not so sure yet. We more see that India and South Asia as the generation of credits, because if we look at things like soil, or we actually also look at mangrove and forest, it has a lot of carbon sequestration potential, but it also has a lot of additional benefit potential for making better soils. And if there's a retailer that is sourcing paddy or rice or anything else from India, for example, then for them, this is more than just a carbon neutralization story. There's also a story of something that the way they're treating their producers, because they're making the soil of their producers more fertile. So hence, we're more looking at something on the markets, like the sell side, the purchasing side, more on the other end of the value chain. And right now, this is more Europe, US, but I would think it would probably at some point also come to India. But
so
the
for that matter,
sorry, go ahead.
Also, like to add one more thing, like on the consumer side, people, say 15 years back in India, were not very concerned about what they're consuming in terms of is it organic or not. But now things have started to shift in that direction as well. So the consumer is also becoming more responsible.
Who could be your first set of customers, if at all, if I ask you, Rama, to create that market, or for your own products, So who could it be?
As in the the consumers of the organic produce, or our customers, as in the farmers?
No, I think that your farmers, as Michael said, that he's looking at India as a generation market of carbon credits, which have to be sold somewhere. These carbon credits will make sense then when they can accrue some income for the FPOs. Okay, and once you show this POC, that there is some particular a few FPOs actually ideally who have made some income out of it. So then I think it will excite the market. India is actually...
Raj, we lost you there.
Raj, you're on mute. Raj, you're on mute.
We lost you. Raj, we lost you.
I think Raj, you're still on mute. Amanda, would you be able to unmute him?
Raj, I'll in the meantime, should I just start responding?
I'm sorry. There was a regular call, so I had cut that call.
Right.
So I'm so sorry, because I'm calling my mobile. So what I'm saying, Michael, and I think I was speaking to... Yeah. All right. So what I'm saying is that POC is very important. And then, POCs, if you can generate, and then there's a burgeoning market, organic market, which is coming up in India, which is where I think a lot of new players are entering, and they're entering well. For example,
Raj, you're on mute again, but shall I just start to respond? Maybe I'll start to respond, and then you add. But because I think you're raising a very important point. So one thing is we have one partner now, Partners in Prosperity from Uttarakhand, and they're in the coffee and rice value chains, and they're selling rice to European retailers. So that would be our first. They're actually our close project partner, because what we do with them is also to measure soil organic carbon in the ground and looking at the methodologies they're applying with slurry and manure, etc. And then we would, with them, work through their value chain to their European retailer and introduce that idea to their European procurer. So that would be the potential first customer, at least the potential first party that we'll talk to on that end. And the other one we have already made part of our also efforts is the Syngenta Foundation. So Syngenta is into the seeds and fertilizing business, and they have a foundation in India, and the foundation is normally more progressive. So we have been speaking to their on the global head, and we'll soon be introduced to their India offices. So that would be another one.
Perfect.
Where we would hope, to get in.
Yeah. So great. Yeah.
Thanks, Raj. I think Bhushan also has his hand raised. Bhushan.
Yeah. Hello.
We can hear you.
I just have two questions. One is, how accurate is the organic carbon measurement? And second, considering farmer profile in India, who are very, very, very small landholders. So how do you ensure that proper measurements are happening?
Yeah. So we have, of course, our experience on crop monitoring already, where I think we had been leading the market because we knew how to use radar-based remote sensing data. Radar is, unless optical data, it goes through the clouds. Now the pixel resolution is always somewhere between 10 or 20 meters per pixel. So we have been able to identify different crops on Indian smallholding field sizes. There are in principle two ways to go about this. One is to monitor actually soil organic carbon content, which of course is really tricky because it's soil, it's micro, it's nutrients. One thing, or the other way would be to monitor actual practices. So regenerative agricultural practices such as putting on slurry, putting on manure, putting on cover crops, no tillage, and we go both approaches. Anyway, the spatial resolution will always be between 10 and 20 meters. The accuracy levels we want to attain are 80%, which we do obtain when monitoring crops. We're not obtaining them yet on monitoring soil organic carbon. We're planning a hackathon, a global hackathon to crowd in more intelligence also from that sort of the global AI, soil and AI community. But I think we'll get there. So the Gates Foundation, with whom we have a conversation tomorrow, they sponsor large work over Africa on this matter, and a smaller project with CIMMYT in India, but that didn't go much where. Okay. So we're confident that this is something that we'll be able to solve.
Okay. So you said that you can actually identify the crops, right, that are grown in the field?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. What I mean, are there any specific crops that you are looking for, or how does it work?
Yeah. So in principle, we can monitor and differentiate between crops as long as they would be there across the field. So if we have intercropping, we did some projects in like Buldana district or areas where you have a lot of intercropping, that we won't pick up. So we can't tell there's one row, there's next rows, that won't be possible. But if there's a single crop across the field, then in principle, this is something that we would be able to take up, and we would be using different ways to do that. We would also look at the time series. So we would look at, when according to the crop calendar has this crop been planted. So we're using different ways, knowledge-based and AI-based, to differentiate between those crops.
I have a very good I have a very good application of this. I maybe I'll share the application on the mail or something.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Okay, great. I would be happy to follow up. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you for your question.
I wanted to check if Emmanuel or Pulkesh also had questions or suggestions.
Yeah, so earlier we thought Earth Analytics was a satellite imagery company. Have you changed or pivoted your business? Or?
Yeah, no, I think you're raising a very good point. So I think we want to more clearly position us as a, if you like, MRV company, monitoring, reporting, verification company. And we think that there's a strong use case to do MRV across natural capital. And we're starting with soil. Now, the use case for it, we think, is because there are a lot of outcome-based financing tools, be this for donors, be this for impact bonds, or be this for the carbon market. And hence we are gravitating to something to scope in the financing area. Now, what we have not decided yet is this something that we can absorb? Can we actually absorb the whole value chain as I've just demonstrated? Or do we need to say, stop, we do the monitoring, reporting, verification part, somebody else does the carbon credit generation. So my co-founder, he's into impact investment, so he knows the financing part. And we're figuring out whether, where does it lie? Where does that cutoff lie is something that we haven't really figured out yet. So, but what was important for us was so we now have a project from GIZ, the donor agency, to think through the whole value chain. And in the project, we'll treat the whole value chain. But then at some point, we might have to say, this is in scope of what we can do as Earth Analytics, or this is out of scope because it's going too far and we need to have a partner for this one. So we know this in and out scope question, we know on the farmer end. So there we know we will not be doing regenerative agriculture. We will work with parties that do regenerative agriculture. On the financing side, we haven't made that boundary yet on what's in scope and out scope. That we'll have to figure out over the next year. My belief is that we could come out strong if we focus on monitoring, reporting, verification for different natural assets. So if we had through the accelerator, we also spoke to Nandini, who was doing the mangrove project in Goa, and we have 2 more calls lined up with others. So we want to understand if we can do that for the monitoring part for different asset classes, and basically excel in developing and using the best algorithms based on satellite data to give that spatial information of changes in natural assets, and particularly changes in natural assets with regards to their carbon sink potential. Because that's where, if we make this bet on the carbon market, that's where we believe that the market will develop over the next decade. But you raised actually a key question, which we're grappling with.
Yeah, thanks. So I think the core of it is for the FPOs to understand exactly how they can generate these carbon credits. It seems to be quite fuzzy and complicated. And in the earlier round when this happened, the consultants confused everyone and left. So we have to make up for that. That's a good
point. Thank you.
The other is to know who are the outcome partners likely to be there who are going to invest into these green bonds. Lending is a possibility, of course, subject, of course, to, treating the entire area. So it has to be done on an area basis, not on a farmer basis. So that is one thing we need to do.
Yeah, true, yeah.
What will be the capital requirement, especially for common resources, common property lands and other things. So those are some things. So working capital financing is possible, but when we get down to investment financing, it's a little unknown for even lenders, that space.
Okay. Okay, that's important. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but we can be in touch.
Yeah, I would be happy to. Yeah,
discuss this further,
on those points. Yeah.
Thanks, Manuel. Wanted to check if anybody else has any questions.
Can we ask, or only the mentors can ask?
Sure.
This is Sudarshan.
Yeah. Go ahead, Sudarshan.
Yeah, it was good to know that Earth Analytics is here, because I'm already in touch with Mr. Amar.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Hi,
I just want to understand that, when you, the question is like the identification of crop and identification of the carbon which is sequestered in the soil. So you also help, the only thing is, would you help us to also trade, as you mentioned in your slides, would you also help us to trade, or you just help us in understanding how much carbon has been captured alone. And this is with respect to our organic farm, which we have. But with the respect to the project in Navipur and our startup, what we're doing with the farmers, as you were mentioning in this discussion, we actually avoid the usage of chemicals and help the farmers to convert into organic. So in that case, can Earth Analytics work with us? It's a national level project which we are initiated through Rotary Club, a service organization. So can you work along with us in understanding how that farmers can be benefited?
Yeah, I think that's something. Yeah, I think that's something we should be able to do if that fits for a carbon credit generation. I mean, of course, it all starts with what's the the carbon reduction plan of any agricultural activity, and whether that's across a geography, which is that we are able to measure, and probably also sizable enough to generate sort of enough credits.
Yeah, and my question is, does the sorry to interrupt. My question
Please
is
go
whether
ahead.
this whatever you're following, does it fall under the methodologies approved by the Paris Climate Control thing? There are a lot of methodologies. They say that it has to be applied as per those things.
Yeah. So what our plan is to get so there are two things. One is the methodology of what's being done in the field, and the other one is the methodology of how this is being accounted for in a monitoring tool. And for what's being done in the field, there are already protocols in place. For the verification part, these protocols have not yet been adapted. So the remote sensing part has not yet been adapted. But we're not the only one who's working on this one. There are also other organizations that are currently negotiating with the international verification bodies. And what we are planning is either to take an existing protocol that has been recently negotiated with the verification bodies, or ourselves to engage in a process with the verification body to have our remote sensing based methodologies accepted. And then we would put them on a platform. So we would like to have a platform where, and have the verification body accept the methods we're using on the platform. In order to then generate the certificate. But we're in touch with some carbon project developers, one to be precise. Of course, eventually there could either be a client, but there could also be a competitor that we haven't worked out. And we started to reach out to, so there's Vera is there for the verification standard, and Rexoil from the FAO's verification standard. So we have to subscribe to a standard, that's for sure. And then we have to check that these methods that are being followed locally are according to that standard. And that's actually a lot of documentation and procedural work. So that's not something which is going to be very quick. But eventually, I think now to explore this also with partners like yours, yeah, sure. I think that would be the whole purpose of that, of our exercise. I'd be happy to do that. Thanks, Julie.
Michael, I also have a question. Since you mentioned that you would be helping FPOs to generate carbon credits, so does that mean you'll, identify FPOs that you would want to transition to regenerative agriculture?
Yeah, we need to identify those that already work on it in some way or have an interest in it, because we can't teach them how to do regenerative agriculture because, as I mentioned, we don't have that agronomic background. But we have to identify those that are interested or inclined or have started to work on, and then help them to verify their efforts. First thing would be verification, that they see, yes, we can actually measure how you progress. They will do it based on soil samples already, but we could give that, if it's a larger area, a more spatial setting. And then in the second stage, help them to generate credits from it. And now we've, through GIZ, who is undertaking a larger program on soil, and they are working with a handful of FPOs and NGOs, and they also work with NABARD. So that would be probably our first, if you like, catchment area through them to engage with, to find those FPOs in India or neighboring countries that have an interest in engaging in regenerative agriculture. And there's, of course, the state of AP. So Andhra made a commitment to, they didn't call it regenerative agriculture, Rama.
Yeah, zero budget.
Yeah, right. So I think this is also something where we would be a where we will be getting an introduction in the next coming months.
So
there are also states like Sikkim and even Northeast, which are very proactive towards getting into regenerative agriculture. So there are states in India which are starting to pick up on this front, and we are very hopeful that it will happen for more than just 2 or 3 states.
So, is there any particular geography you're looking at, for your early adopters, for your pilot, or any particular commodities that you're looking at, crop value chains that you're looking at?
Yeah, so Uttarakhand and paddy is one partner. And then another partner, Foundation of Ecological Security, they're actually running programs in MP, but on common lands. So that would be a slightly different approach. And then we have one partner in Odisha, who's again in the paddy value chain. So those are the current 3 ones that Ekutira, that is in Odisha. The current 3 ones we would start with.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Michael. Any other questions from anybody in the audience?
I don't have a question, more of a comment. I want to direct you to just to check out the WRI website, and you can search for anything like soil carbon and read tons of different articles that we have there just for different resources. I'm going to link to one in the feedback form, so you'll get that later. And then second, I just got put in contact today, as of right now, with a colleague from this organization called South Pole. Have you heard of them before? We might invite them to join us for a webinar. Have you spoken with them, or what is your
I'm speaking to Omer Ahmad, who I'm in friendly terms with. So, no, sorry, you said South Pole Carbon, or you said, can you repeat? Sorry,
South Pole Carbon, basically.
That one, no, we have not reached out to, but they're on our list. But if you have somebody at South Pole Carbon, we'd be glad to.
Yeah, I don't have somebody yet because I just got introduced to him literally minutes ago. But that's just a little preview. Maybe 2 weeks from now or so, we might have a session.
Yeah, great. Oh, that would be very interesting. Yeah, they are, I think, one of the leading project developers in that space. Yeah.
Yeah, very exciting models they have.
Yeah, great. That would be much welcome.
So again, just anybody who's here, check the chat box. We put a feedback form there, and anybody can click on that and provide feedback. You can be an entrepreneur or a mentor, because everybody has really good points of view. So anything you'd want to add, you can just put your name in the box and start to add your comments. And I see Dr. Asfali says, if you have any pilots done at this point.
Is that a question I should address?
Oh, sure.
Sorry. Yeah. No, we have not on soil. Well, I mean, we have ground data. Then what's a pilot? So now we're calibrating the technology over soil. So that we're doing, and we have ground points from Gujarat, Odisha, and Haryana. And there we're getting, we're twisting with the methodologies. I think we're now at 70% accuracy. Target is being 80. We have pilots on using our data in the crop insurance space in India. So there we worked with Reliance General Insurance and with Bharti AXA and with SCORE. So there we work with some of the partners in the crop insurance space, Government of Tamil Nadu, Government of Maharashtra, where we used our technology to identify crop errors, identify losses, etc. So that's purely on the crop monitoring side. What we did, and on the soil side, which is sort of the more recent one, we're now calibrating the technology. So that's our current, if you like, in our project value chain. The first thing would be calibrating the technology, and then later we would move into the monitoring and eventually carbon market side of things.
Thanks, Michael. I think Mr. Raj has also put 2 questions. That which FPOs are eligible for carbon credits, and how are you reaching out to the eligible FPOs?
I mean, as any FPO can be a so-called project owner and generate the carbon credits based on the following of the methodology, and they will always work with a project developer. So South Pole Carbon is a project developer, and the question for us is, with Soilify, do we want to position us as a project developer, which would be sort of the bigger vision, or do we stick more to the remote sensing part only? So that's on the first question. So any FPO that is doing successful sequestration of carbon into soils, and that has a proper legal structure, but that I think is not the key. And the second question was, look at the chat, how are you communicating to eligible FPOs? Is yeah, I think we currently don't have a clear communication strategy. The way we approached now FPOs and NGOs was to say, you're doing regenerative agriculture, how do you measure success? We can help you to measure success in a spatial way through remote sensing. Let's work on that in a first step, and then see if the amount of carbon sequestered is relevant enough that you are entitled to generate carbon credits. So, but we don't come in with the carbon credit thing, but we came in with the monitoring part, so slightly more modest, and I think that's probably what we would also continue to do. First on the measurement part as a communication strategy, and then say, okay, now let's see what are your financing. Do you have any financing needs, and how can we cover those financing needs through either carbon credits or other tools that we still have to understand a bit better. And there was one more comment. Should I also answer these others? You have to guide me on time, right? You just cut me.
Yeah, so we're on, so you can reply to the other questions in the chat box. You can stick around because it's time for the next entrepreneur.
Okay. So we'll stick around in the chat box, right?
Yeah.
You said.
And Amanda's also put your emails so people can reach out to you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So thanks, Michael, and thanks, Rama. You can also access the feedback link for some of the points we put in. And also we will be sharing the recording of the session with you as well, post, maybe in a week or so.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And now...
Thank you as well.
And now we have Sudarshan from EV Pro. So Sudarshan, just to quickly run you through the agenda, you were present during the call, so you have an idea. So we'll start with any new mentors who've joined. They can introduce themselves, and then you can pull up your slides, introduce yourself and about your company, and what are the gaps that you're facing right now for growth, or any barriers, challenges. And you'll have 5 minutes, and post that we'll move on to Q&A from the audience, and also recommendations or suggestions from the mentors. So I see that we have Aritra who's joined us.
Hi,
so
Ashna.
Aritra, would you like to introduce yourself? Hi.
Sure. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Oh, doing so great. Thanks so much, Aritra.
Yeah. So just for people who, so I've been like kind of associated with LA from the very first one. Again, a great opportunity to meet all of you. Just to give you 2 lines about me, I have around 10-12 years of experience in rural decentralized energy transition and energy agri nexus kind of work in India across most of the states. Apart from that, I am currently leading the investments and programs for Sangam Ventures in Northeast. And I am usually working mostly with the companies on the customer development, product development, and finalizing the business strategy and making them close towards product market fit. That's all from my end. I'd be waiting for, I think, Sudarshan to speak about his organization.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Sudarshan. Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah. So shall I start sharing the screen, madam?
Sure.
Yeah. Is it visible?
It's loading. Yes, you can put it on slideshow mode.
Yeah, is it okay, Manu?
Yes, please go ahead.
So, yeah, good evening to all. So this is Sudarshan. I'm the promoting the director of Mivipro Products Private Limited, which is incorporated in 2019 December. And we are also incubated by Tamil Nadu State Agriculture University Incubation Center, TBI. And I'm here to present about my innovation, which I developed. The product name is Herbolive Plus, to address this very sensitive issue in the agriculture sector where the farmers are facing due to the intrusion of herbivorous wild animals, wild birds, and rodents. So to solve the man-animal conflict through a holistic approach. And before getting into my venture, I would like to say that this is a this is not a passion-based innovation. This was a need-based innovation where we started to face the same problems in our organic orchard from 2013. And that is how I came up with the solution with a lot of permutation and combinations and various trials in doing a lot of R&D. So everybody knows that a healthy crops, but several crores of rupees are lost every year because of this intrusion of animals, and it's huge. The data also shows that it's very huge, and even the government is not able to document the proper data because of two practical difficulties. The farmers will not be able to reach out to the concerned departments in time, and the department officials cannot reach to the farms in time and complete the procedures properly and get it documented. So there are two very lot of challenges and difficulties are there in documenting it. I would get into the key slides. And so the current solutions, what the farmers are left out with are very pathetic and nothing is sustainable. All the traditional method of control, like using the trenches, electric fence, bursting crackers, using shade net to cover the crops, to protect from the birds, all those things have been done. Very few biorepellents are available in the market, which has been asked to tie it on the twines and put it across the borders of the field, which is again not sustainable due to various reasons of the wind blow, it falls down, the pole falls down, and some grazing by animals nearby. If it pushes, it will fall down, and it is not effective for a longer period. These are the challenges, and people have started to use traps with poisoning animals and killing it. That is also becoming a very big offense. If it is animal like rodents or wild pigs, yes, it is accepted. But if it's like peacock or deer or national animals or national birds are killed, it's very big offense. So that's a big challenge for the farmers. So I have come up with the very, very innovative solution, the Herbolive Plus. It's a odor and taste-based biorepellent, which is effective on any kind of crops and which will control a wide range of animals, starting from wild elephants, wild pigs, the deers, rats, rabbits, monkeys, squirrel, peacock, parrot, porcupine, and nilgai in the northern states, the blue bull. So we have documented in different crops for all these problems faced by the farmers, and this has to be actually applied as a foliar spray on the crop. So the advantage of applying as a foliar spray is because of the odor and taste. It also protects the crop from damaging from these animals or birds and rodents. At the same time, it acts as a wonderful growth promoter. So it's an added advantage for the farmers. It acts as a repellent and growth promoter. And we also have a very unique, innovative application method developed keeping small farmers in mind who cannot afford or cannot hire a sprayman to spray on his crops, or who doesn't have time. So this automatic sprinkler units developed by me, it's a normal battery spraying units which has been converted into a sprinkler unit with a 700 rupees of timer developed for this battery sprayer. So farmers can just charge in their home and put it in the field, and that unit totally will cost 3,500 rupees approximately. It will take care of 2 acres of crop from the damage happening by this intrusion of animals or birds, and even from the pest. So this has also been documented and tested in a tribal farmers field. In a ragi crop, in a dry crop, where the millet crops, which was damaging heavily by wild pigs, that has been documented very positively. This is effective even during rainy season, because till today across the world, anything applied on the crop will be washed away in the rains or during heavy fog, the winter seasons. And all these things can be addressed with this application unit. So the multiple benefits of my innovation makes it very, very unique. It has 7 benefits in a single product, acting as repellent and growth promoter. Third is pest control. Fourth is fungal disease control. Fifth is soil biological improvement, not the NPK, soil biological improvement. Sixth is the water retention improvement. Seventh is the crop taste and shelf life improvement, a considerable increase. All these 7 makes it a unique and as a one-stop solution for the farmers. That is how we are addressing. So the farmers, once they select my innovation to apply on his crop as a foliar spray, he can forget about all other requirements needed in the entire crop cycle. So this is about the product literature with the ingredients of herbal extracts, fermented fruit extracts, and the cow byproducts are the basic ingredients with which this innovation has been developed using under a proprietary technology in the formulation and the process. And this is basically the odor and taste because of the alkaloids and flavonoids in the plant byproducts, which everybody knows, and that is giving the bitterness to the animals. It doesn't like this odor or taste. Sometimes because of the odor, it might move away. Sometimes it enters and taste, it will move away. It will change its direction slowly. It acts as a systemic and gets into the plant system and also helps to improve the enzyme secreted via roots and improves the soil biologicals for the uptake of the soil nutrients also. This technology has been validated by the Tamil Nadu State Agriculture University after 1 year of study in the field. I think video will not be played in this screen. So where we can show the reaction of the animals after spraying. And this is a small feedback and a data documented in a small farmer, a paddy farmer, which very clearly shows 16% of the profitability, overall profitability when compared, it is more than 100% of the cost because he has spent 1,600 rupees in a project for spraying my product in 1 acre of land. It's a small farmer. His phone number, everything is being given here. And compared with the farmer who has not used my product, his profitability is double the time more. Whereas in 2 ways, one is reducing the cost of production, and second thing is increasing the yield and the increasing the fodder percentage. So all those things are revenue generating points. And the cost of production has also been very considerably reduced by more than 20–30% because of avoiding the chemicals and everything and just using my herbal. So this is the traction, what you've done. This is the addressable market size is very huge, pan India, it's very huge, but we are focusing on selected crops, paddy, groundnut, banana, sugarcane, wheat, and saffron alone we are targeting. Why? Because these are the predominantly cultivated crops across India and face huge man-animal conflict problem. So our distribution model is cluster and linear model. The linear model is through the B2B network, through the distributors, retail outlets and things. Cluster model is what our major focus in our startup, where the product plus service is provided. So, for example, 20-kilometer radius, 200 acres will be aggregated on the target crops and through our implementing partners in the field. And that will be one cluster for us. And we'll be growing cluster by cluster. And we already implemented 4 clusters in our state itself, Tamil Nadu, for paddy crop. So the competitive edge in the product with multiple benefits and the services, we do the last mile delivery also without any additional cost, and we do the spraying without additional cost. So as a product and service together, we bundle up and we provide the services to the farmers in the cluster model. So because of this uniqueness, as a channel also, we have an advantage in leveraging through KVKs, the NGOs, FPOs, and seed suppliers, and the channel partners. We already have one channel partner in Uttarakhand, and we've been now planning work in UP through Social Alpha, the Tata Trust networks, under which we have been selected. So these are the various milestones. This has been validated by TNAU. Successful trials in 12 states across India has been done. And various district farm research stations falling under the Indian Council of Agriculture Research has also documented this in Andhra and Tamil Nadu. And in Kerala, State Forest Department has also documented this on elephants, peacocks, and wild pigs control. And this is organic certified. And we have positive toxicology reports obtained under the ethical committee approval, stating that it doesn't even harm the animals, even if it tastes. It doesn't kill the animals in any way. The trademark is registered, and we've been recognized by Indian Council of Agriculture Research in the national level as a farm innovator. So our growth, what we have planned year by year, is this. The graph has been shown. This is the unit cost of our cluster model, since we are focusing only on cluster model. And this is my team, myself having 19 years of industry experience with a biochemistry background. And my father is another promoting executive director, has 4 decades of experience in this industry, and he's been a serial entrepreneur in the agriculture sector and agri-allied activities. He has 2 decades of experience, rich experience in being a licensed manufacturer. And we have a very strong advisory team. Mr. M.K. Dattraj, advisor, having 4 decades of experience in the industry and in licensing. Mr. Karthik D. Meda as advisor of finance, having 15 years of experience. He did his MBA in finance in USA. And Mr. Venkatesh, advisor strategy, has 3 decades of experience in retail management, where his experience would be drawn in doing the market linkage part. So basically, the go-to-market strategy, what we are adopting is to do the subsidized field demos, to provide the subsidized field demos in the cluster. Once the implementing partners, suitable implementing partners are identified, so we conduct the farmers meeting and we do the subsidized field demos. We show the impact, document it, and then take it forward by aggregating the 200 acres in that cluster. So that is our GTM strategy, providing subsidized field demos. And the subsidized cost is exactly, if you look at it, it is just 400 or 500 rupees per acre, which is the cost equivalent to the spraying cost, which the farmer anyways have to incur. By applying either chemical or whatever the product, he has to incur by paying to the sprayman. So that is the cost which we are asking him to bear in our subsidized field demos. So rest of the thing is not been charged, and we show the document. So the top challenges I would say is the awareness creation, because when I say it's innovation and it is addressing the sensitive issue, and when I say that there is no other solutions available, similar solutions are available in India or across the country, I do not want to market it. I would only want to create awareness, saying that, say, this is a solution which is available for your problem. And I want to network with the suitable implementing partners for this cluster model in the field. So these are the top challenges, because to create awareness, it's a huge amount of financial support is required. And the team is required, importantly, to go to the field and identify the suitable implementing partners, onboard them, and then conduct these demos. So we basically provide the services of using drone spray. Using drones, we apply the servo-leaf in the cluster model, whereas the efficiency is improved and the cost is also reduced and the labor cost is saved, and they do not depend on the labors in general. So we take small farmers, from mid-sized farmers, any farmers, we don't mind taking from 1 acre minimum. And it can be in different distance of 1, 2, 3, 4 kilometers also. The basic thing is in 20-kilometer radius, 200 acres of the target crop should be there. That is why we have selected only the specific crops, which are generally grown as clusters in larger extent, and also face the problem of man-animal conflict.
Thanks. Thank you, Sudarshan. In your asks, I just want to clarify one thing that you mentioned, implementing partners for cluster models. What kind of implementing partners,
Madam, it can be FPO, it can be a KVK, it can be an NGO, or it can be even a seed supplier or fertilizer shops who are interested. Now we are tied up with KVK in Erode district, and with one fertilizer shop in Karnataka, Raichur district, and with 6 other districts in Tamil Nadu, we have identified the implementing partners through KVK. All of them are KVK.
Okay.
Okay, got it. FPO, we are finding it difficult. We want to identify suitable FPOs. So I think your last week's session with the Samunati and other. I think we will be reaching out to them to take their help in reaching out to the suitable FPOs in field.
Sure. Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Sudarshan. We have one more mentor who's joined us, Dr. Manik. I would request you to quickly introduce yourself, and then we can move for questions for Sudarshan. Sir, you're on mute.
Yes, madam. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting, giving me this chance. I was in Space Application Center, Indian Space Research Organization as a scientist. I was working for remote sensing applications for agriculture, mostly for crop yield modeling, crop growth modeling, drought assessment, and the climate change, impact of climate change on the agriculture.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. You should have been there in our previous session, because that was also a remote sensing, remote sense monitoring.
Yeah, madam. It was today. It was a first any day here in the Ahmedabad Gandhinagar today. First heavy rains in of this season. We didn't have rains up till now, Today was a person, I was in the traffic jam, madam, at some place.
Okay, no worries, no worries. We can maybe connect you later.
Okay, thank you, madam. Thank you.
Thank you, doctor, for joining us.
Yeah.
So I would open the floor for questions for Sudarshan or recommendations or suggestions.
Sudarshan Auditro this side.
Good evening, sir. Hi.
Good evening. Hello. So before even coming to the top challenges, when you mentioned just the second part that you mentioned when Ashna asked like suitable partners, you mentioned KVKs, FPOs, NGOs. Now, just to, before I come to the question, just to let you know that the kind of channel partners or how your like go-to-market strategies for these three organizations will be completely kind of different. So you might have to think of initially where do you want to work with or whom you want to work with. That is point number one. So, so if you can go to that slide where you showed an example of two farmers, where he was a project farmer and non-project farmer.
Yeah.
Here, yes. See, I have one question here. The question is basically to understand that you mentioned that this is also somewhere improving or acting as a bio input to the crops, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Now, with that bio input, is there any kind of thought process or documentation from your end to understand what are the input cost that was earlier being used or earlier being incurred by the farmer is right now being negated? Is there any kind of documentation for that?
Yes, sir. Yes. The only thing is, sir, this is not positioned as a bio input for a growth promoter, as a growth promoter. We are positioning this product purely as a repellent and growth promoter. The growth promoter is an additional benefit where the farmers, we ask them to replace the urea alone, only the urea.
Okay. So that's a kind of huge impact on the climate change side also. Urea is like N2O, so it's kind of N2O emissions will be reduced if you are reducing urea. That's great.
We are avoiding we want to ask them to avoid urea because this will create problems. If urea and my product are used, it will create pest problems. A lot of infestation will happen because of more greenishness. So they have to avoid urea while using my product.
Okay. So that is point number one, right? So I hope there is a kind of training manual for each one of them to understand which are things you need to avoid if they are using herbicide, right?
Yeah, we give the standard operating procedure in the cluster model to all the farmers whenever we implement it.
Okay. Now the next question comes when you say that anyhow I want to reach within a 200 kilometer, just 20 kilometer radius, 200 acres. Am I right or wrong?
Correct. Correct.
Right. So here I want to understand from you, see, this is something Herbolib that you're making for, as you mentioned, a particular section of crop has been already been identified, but these are the crops. Yes. Now, have you identified a typical customer persona or a user persona who will be actually using this?
Yes, yes. We are already been into the market. We have reached out to almost 200 plus customers. And we have done a business of 55 lakhs also in the previous year in the COVID season. And the farmers are basically whoever are facing the problem of the animals and birds or rodents, whatever I mentioned, will be my users, can be my users. So how
any land holding, any land holding specific that you have mentioned?
No, sir, nothing. I mean, 1 acre farmer, it can be a 50 acre farmer, 20 acre, the large, mid-size, small farmers. Anybody can be a customer if they are facing this problem.
Right. Understood. Now, if you think this way, that there will be three kinds of like marginal farmers, smallholder farmers, medium scale farmers, and large scale farmers, right?
Correct.
Now, the requirement of each one of them is different. And the way to reach out to them is also different. In the sense, so I guess there is some kind of liters per acre that is required to be sprayed over a certain frequency for each crop, right?
Yes.
So it is not, of course, same with respect to a marginal farmer and a smallholder farmer or a large scale farmer because the quantities will vary.
The quantities differ. Yeah, vary because of the land holding size.
Once the quantities varies, then means the costing will also vary. Right, sir?
No, sir. No, because the per acre cost is same. For anybody, the per acre cost is same.
If I am holding 0.5 acres, sir, if I'm holding, because marginal farmers, I am suppose, think of this way, I am a marginal farmer, I am doing only ragi, for an example, right?
Okay.
And I am having problems with elephants.
Okay.
Or rodents, whatever, your choice.
Okay. Okay.
Now, the cost incurred to me, since I am having 0.5 acre, of course, even 1 rupee change in my cost of cultivation will affect my income. Right?
Definitely.
Whereas, think of this way, I have a 10-acre farm.
Okay.
Now, I am a kind of, not a large farmer, kind of mid and large kind of farmer. Then for me, to incur that cost will be more or less okay, right? But I'm talking about in a sense that when you are saying 20-kilometer radius, 200 acres, it will be good to also define the average landholding per farmer doing this, because that is most suitable for them to adopt. Early, since you are in a stage, you have done that revenue, I would say it's a pre-revenue stage, and you have huge potential to scale. It will be good to first identify a particular customer persona who will adopt this as a value-added product for their farming input, right?
Okay, got it.
Right, the cost versus, you can say, the value for money, how much I am losing versus how much I am incurring should be of value to me as a farmer. So landholding also matters. Okay, if you
I fully agree, sir.
Okay, that is question number 2. Now coming to the point, how will you reach out? Now, since you have already mentioned that you are reaching out through the KVKs and others, there will be Krishi Melas, I guess you are attending.
Yes.
You need boots on the ground. What you can do, sir, since you are limited, your team is how you and your, I think your father is there, right?
Father is there, and in the say field team, we have 2 persons there.
2 persons.
The cluster manager, yeah.
Right. Just for an understanding, are you ready to also, do you also train NGO people and the KVK people on the ground?
No, we are doing the capacity building, not training. Like we are giving the, how do I say, the usage is being done by us because we are providing services by ourselves. So there is no training required since we are providing the application itself by our team. The only thing is the cost benefit details. We select the farmers, as you said in the previous point, we select the farmers in the cluster meeting itself, in the farmer meetings or the melas, and tell them that what is the benefit and what is the cost to be incurred. So a farmer would determine himself whether what is the percentage of damage happening. Generally, a 10% of damage, crop damage, if it happens, he will be our customer. If it is just 1 or 2%, 3% damage is happening, he will not be our customer. So we explain them in the meetings clearly with the cost benefit calculator, which we have developed.
Okay.
So
got it. So that is one persona that you need to mention. That is a farmer who is having 10% of crop loss because of animal intervention. This is also an excellent point. Now, what I would suggest, maybe this video that you were unable to show us, is do you also share this with your NGOs or who are the implementing partners on the local partners on the ground?
Everyone, we take the projector and we show the entire farmers feedback, what we have done in the previous season, the very recent previous season, of that particular crop. We show the farmers feedback. We document the audio, videos and everything, and we play it to them. We also help them to meet them if they are nearby. We request the agri departments or the KVKs for exchange, knowledge sharing, like sort of thing. We ask them to bring it to this place and interact with the farmers during the harvest period.
I think one more areas you can reach out to for good FPOs to come up. It will be good to reach out to even resource institutions like SFAC and others who are actually creating FPOs, right? NABARD, SFAC, you can reach out to them and kind of talk to them who are the kind of advanced stage FPOs, FPCs who can actually go out, where you can go out and give this kind of demo and show them. On the other hand, you can also kind of do one, once you're doing demo. So basically, of course, you should identify also when you're identifying FPOs, you should also identify the number of members in the FPOs you should target. Not everyone. If it is a very small size FPO, not having enough money, it will not be sufficing. You might also go in a track where you are providing this FPO community as a service. Rather than selecting one farmer, you're selecting a group of farmers together. That makes an easier one to go. So one FPO, if you select, for an example, one FPO who is dealing with 1, 2 or 3 crops of your choice, and it has around 500, 600 farmers under their umbrella, and who are more or less doing well, the FPO has some paying capacity, you can reach out to these FPOs and do this kind of demo and work with the FPO as a kind of customer, not single farmer. Then your reach again increases.
Yes, wonderful, sir. To add on that, how we are planning to do is, even with the KVKs and the FPOs, the beauty of our business model, what I developed is, it's a consignment sales. What we are doing. The farmer, either the KVK or the FPO or the NGO, need not pay me for the product which they are procuring from me. It is on a consignment sale, which is done. The stock transfer is done. And we have developed a software where through the app, we are monitoring the real-time field data, the field coordinators and the implementing partners. And so every time, the FPO can reach out to the members who are not there in their group. You can reach out to the other farmers in their area also. They have also opportunity to become a member. They make them as a member in their FPO because of this product and services being provided. They are being paid on usage basis, per liter basis. So my model is in the cluster model. They're all off-roll people, the field coordinators and the FPO, the implementing partners. The only on-roll people is my cluster managers. So who would be doing this, who will line up this, identify these people and put them on track and see that it has been rolled out. The model has been rolled out. So once the model is rolled out, everything is on use basis, per liter basis, they're paid. So they are not even paying to me initially. So that is the advantage where whichever the area, if it is vulnerable, if there is an FPO who is in need of this, I'd be happy to associate because they need not pay me or do anything. The only thing is they should have a networking ability with the farmers and accessibility to the vulnerable area. So those can be my implementing partners.
Sir, yes, one last yes.
Okay. No, I was just saying if you'd like, we could schedule a follow-up session with maybe Pro, since we have 15 minutes left. Would like to give other mentors a chance.
Okay, sure, please, go ahead, no problem.
Thanks, Aritza. Anybody else in the audience would like to ask Sudarshan any questions or any recommendations?
Yeah. Hi, Sudarshan.
Hi, sir.
Yeah, this is Bhushan. Okay, so I have 2 questions. One is, did you say your product turn the crop bitter?
No.
In taste?
No, not at all. Okay. It improves the taste and flavor and the shelf life of the end produce.
Okay. And the other thing is, does it remove the odor which attracts the rodent and the animals which destroy the crops? I mean, once it's sprayed, does it remove the odor, right? It removes the odor, right?
The natural odor of the crop gets masked, and the odor of this, my innovation is, it gets degenerated in a due course of time. So that's why we are applying it in a set frequency. So it doesn't stay.
So masking of natural odor of the crop, does it have any impact on maybe honeybees or something like that?
No, it improves. It helps to improve the it helps to improve the environmentally beneficial insects.
Okay.
Like honeybees, the spider cobwebs, butterflies, everything is improved. In our own organic form, we have documented it and visibly seeing that.
Okay, great. So I would like to give you a suggestion regarding the network development.
Yes, sir.
So, I have been in the similar sector for maybe last 10-15 years.
Okay.
So I would suggest that if your product is ready for the market.
Yes.
Yeah. So my experience is that about 95% of the market is controlled or is operated through the dealer distributor network that is standard everywhere in India.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think if you want to deploy your solution on a large scale, I think that getting access to that is very important for you.
Yes, true, sir. Through the linear model, B2B, yeah.
Yeah. FPOs and KVKs will definitely help. But right now, from what I understand is there are very few FPOs which actually provide inputs to farmers.
Correct.
Yeah. So if you are looking for scaling up right now, I mean, if that is the aim, if proving the claim of your product is the aim, then concentrating on FPOs and KVKs is a good idea. But if you are looking
to scaling up mode, we are in the scaling up mode. So that is our objective.
So I would suggest that you look for partners who can give you access to dealers and distributors. I can say from my experience in almost 5-6 states of India that your product has huge market.
Yes, definitely, sir.
Yeah. And yeah, so I can give you access to that. We can discuss it separately. But
sure, sir.
Yeah, irrespective of that, try to get access to the network.
Sure, definitely, sir. I got it. The challenge in the linear model, why we are not focusing much, is the margin percentage what the distributors expect when compared with the regular products on the shelves, available on the shelves. And second thing, this hampers their business in other way around. When I say that a farmer who needs this for an animal conflict problem or birds damaging rodents problem, he takes it and uses, but he ends up not buying the other chemicals, pesticides or fungicides from the distributor. Because this herbole would solve the problem of pest infestation and fungal disease infestation when he's applying it on the set frequency. So the distributors would not be interested to lose that margin, which is a huge chunk. And that has been under very deep credit market. So he would not try to lose that cycle also being affected. So this is one challenge. But once they create build the market from the bottom to top through this cluster model, the demand starts generating. And any distributor would also be interested and would love to explore it and scale up through the model, which is a very proven model all along the way. Yeah. So till now, that is why we are focusing on B2G also. We are already with the Tamil Nadu state government. The State Agriculture University has already recommended to the state government and it is under process. And through Social Alpha program, we've been selected. We've been in the cohort, and through the Tata Trust Network, we have been focusing on their states where they're very strong in UP, Maharashtra, and Orissa and Karnataka. And in Maharashtra, we've been selected by Lighthouse Accelerator DCF Ventures in the last week. So by October 1st week, they will be helping us to reach to the affected vulnerable farmers in whole of Maharashtra state. So this is how we are planning to reach as of now, sir.
Yeah. Okay. No issues.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bhushan.
Yeah.
So Darshan, we also have 2 questions from Mr. Raj in the chat box. Any solution for plantation crops like apples where mesh is used extensively to save from birds?
Yeah, this can be used for any birds. This can be very well used.
Okay, and what about organic crops? Can it be used and not destroy the organic tag?
We can use it because it's an organic certified product. So we are now with the certification agency, and now we are planning to change to IMO or some other certification agency also. Since it's completely bio and residue free, and there's the chemical residues, pesticide residues, heavy metal residues, everything has been tested and documented. Any organic farmer can take it, and for that case, we are also a certified organic farmer. So we are using this in our farm regularly.
Thanks, Darshan. Any more questions from? Yes.
Yes.
And my innovation has a potential to reduce the greenhouse gases also. Since we are avoiding the chemical usage in the field, it very much has a potential to reduce the greenhouse gases, and that too, the nitrous oxide emissions from the paddy fields, wet paddy fields, will also be reduced. That is how I, in search of a proper expert to guide me on how to measure this, which we are unable to understand. So we have reached out to Earth Analytics through this Land Accelerator program also.
Sure. I think Emmanuel had a question.
Yeah. So one suggestion is to focus on high value crops where the pest problem is acute. For example, in Telangana, we have this wild boar problem in some districts, right? Similarly, in Himachal, the monkey menace is there.
Yes, sir.
And Bihar has an issue of Nilgai.
Yes.
So you will have to look at those pockets where the problem is really acute and has an economic loss which is significant. And there probably the adoption of your technology would be quite fast. So that is where I think you should, because this KVK FPO model is a slow growth model, as the others are saying. These institutions are not designed for scaling their ideas. They're always in laboratory and pilot stage desktop. So that is one thought. The other idea is that I think there are reportedly 170 civilian airfields in India, airfields and airports.
Okay.
Which all have a problem of bird menace.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Which they are solving through crackers, smoke, etc. methodologies of cutting grass and spending hell of a lot of money.
Okay.
And they are looking for these bird repellents. Basically,
okay.
I think quite a large incidence of bird hits in engines in these places. And so that would be also a potential market.
Sure.
The user, it's easier because there's only just this airport authority and then some private players in the airports. Yes, and at least one more company that we are associated closely with has been able to get acceptance of their product, which is similar to yours, with the airport authority. And doing good business. So that is one place where you could explore the possibilities.
Sure. One thing, sir.
Okay.
Definitely.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Just one small comment, madam.
Sure, doctor.
Hello.
Yes,
Can I have one small comment, madam?
Yes, please go ahead.
Hello, Sudarshan.
Sir, good evening, sir. Yeah.
Good evening. I have just one small comment. In each season, how you decide hotspots of demand? Because that will depend upon the incidence of pest and disease, and that is how you have to identify the most vulnerable places where your demand will increase. Otherwise, it is just like all over India. You cannot concentrate all over India, is it not?
Correct, sir. That is why, sir, I would address the point. We have selected the crops based on not on the pest incidence, sir. It is only on the animal conflict. So whereas if you see paddy across the rodents is a very common issue. So and that is why we also select based on the the data provided by the agriculture departments and the forest departments. We identify the vulnerable areas on the target crops on the target crops which is grown as clusters. So we then identify the suitable partners and we try to aggregate the clusters there. That is how we are doing it, sir.
Now this database, if you have, that will help you to concentrate only on those areas where demand can be highest. Is it not?
Yes, definitely, sir. And that is why we selected UP, which is a very big market for us. Yeah. And in Maharashtra and Bihar, we already have an NGO taking this into it. And Uttarakhand, we have a channel partner. We are also speaking with BIFE Foundation now to reach out to the farmers through their network.
Okay. Yeah.
And one more thing, I actually welcome all the suggestions given. We definitely will work on it. The only thing is we also know that the KVKs and the FPOs, definitely they're very slow and they are very active in smaller works. The R&D works, documenting small activities and doing it. But scaling up is not a regular practice it's not a culture which has been followed in their institutions. But here the advantage is they are the people who are very much connected in the field, like the agriculture departments and the local district offices. So
Yes.
they have been facing all kind of questions from the farmers, and they are unable to give any solutions. When I am here to provide the solution without making them to pay upfront money for my product or services, they are just helping us to conduct the meetings in the vulnerable areas. So through them, we are identifying the vulnerable areas, as you said, and
Yes.
conducting the meetings, showing the demos, subsidized field demos by ourselves, and aggregating the farmers where the implementing partners just keep the stock, move the stock from them, collect the cash through the field coordinators, and help us to document it. This is how we do it, sir. That is how we see that there is an opportunity to scale up also through this network. Irrespective of the other solutions, which is expecting them to pay money and take it as a distributor and then scale up, help them to scale up. So because it's a pressing problem and they do not have an answer, so it very much helps to bridge the gap through these institutions.
Yes.
That is what we are trying to do.
Okay, thank you.
So you can also, I think these agri input startups which are there, you could ask them to be your distributors.
Yes, that is a big opportunity, sir. We have already reached out to few like very big, I mean, agri input people are there. So who are providing a lot of services, multiple services of inputs, weather analytics and everything, market linkage services. We are also trying to reach out to them.
Okay, okay. Yeah, that will be good. They will not have any problems like this dealer distributor.
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Thanks, Emmanuel. There's one more question in the chat, Sudarshan, for you, that from Raghu. Can it be used for post-harvest applications such as warehouses and cold storages?
No, no, no. That is difficult because this will be effective only on the green foliage, where it has to be absorbed and emit the odor of it has to be emitted. On the we have tested this in the warehouses in godowns to control the rodents. It is effective, but it immediately dries up. When you apply it on the floor, it will dry up. So in the atmosphere, so the odor will not be retained. There are the other methods like sprinkler system. It will apply. It will be affecting the stock which they are holding in the godowns. It should not be applied on that. So those are the challenges are there.
Okay. And I had one question. Is it, do you have to customize it as per different crops?
No, madam. It is only the dose, the schedules will differ. The SOP, what we develop for each crops and give it to the farmers in the cluster meetings, the schedule differs. For paddy, it is 4,500 rupees per acre is the cost for 5 round of applications. And for groundnut, it is 7,800 rupees or 7,900 rupees per acre for 9 round of applications. So sugarcane, it differs. Only the dosage same. For animals like monkey, squirrel, and parrots, the dosage also differs.
So, okay, got it. Okay. Okay. Anybody else from the audience has any questions or suggestions?
Oh, hi, Kavita. I mean, sorry, Ashna, excuse me. This was an amazing session. I just wanted to let everybody know, again, they can check the chat box for the feedback form. So if there's additional feedbacks, comments, or if you'd like to leave your email address in a way that can be easily found by Sudarshan later. And also I put in the chat box an event link. We've got our event link up on the WRI website for our impact days, where we'll be having our final presentations of the top 15. That'll be November 16th and 17th of this year. So go ahead and register. Anybody who's on here can go ahead and register for that so that you can get that in your calendar already. And we'll be selecting the top 15 from the 30 who are receiving mentorship. Well, actually from everybody later this month. And we'll let everybody know a little bit more about that at an upcoming meeting. So those are my announcements. Thanks.
Thanks, Amanda. Anybody else has any questions? If we don't, I guess then we can wrap up today's session. Okay, Miss Dr. Nagveni has a question. Is it safe for human consumption?
Oh,
Safety
no,
for
it doesn't.
human consumption in the sense, I think she means if you're applying it on the crop, then
it is definitely safe, man. It is. I mean, I told you as well. This can the crop can also get an organic certificate. Organic farmers can also use this very well. So by consuming the product, you can also check the shelf life, taste, flavor, it improves. We also documented that in in-house R&D. It rather improves the shelf life, taste, and flavor of the end produce.
Thanks, Sudarshan. So I think we can wrap up today's session. And Sudarshan, you can check the feedback link in the chat box. I think Amanda will also be forwarding the feedback link along with the recording of the session later on.
Yeah, thank you.
So I just want to thank everybody on the call for joining us today and for supporting our entrepreneurs. And I would pass it on to Amanda and Kavita if they have any closing remarks.
How do we register for the November top 15 of selection? There is no link in the chat box. Amanda was
there is so Amanda's posted a link, WRI link.
Okay, yeah.
Link.
So we'll have to register in that. Okay.
Yeah, there it is again, the registration just again in the chat box. And no big deal, that's just to hold the space on your calendar. So I want to just thank everybody for this amazing opportunity to get to know two great businesses today, two great business models. Really encourage the entrepreneurs who presented today to feel free to follow up with the people that they would want to. You can check the calendar invites to find people's email addresses. If you can't find anything, you can reach out to Ashna, myself, or Kavita, and we can help put you in touch. Really thank you guys so much for joining. And that's my message, my closing message. And yep.
Yeah. I just want to say thank you everyone for joining us today, and just want to clarify the announcement that Amanda has made, that through Impact Days, we mean the demo days. We are organizing on 2 days in November 16th and 17th, where the top 15 would be presenting to a panel of investors. So the registration is open for that, and we would be reaching out to you with specific personal invites as we progress towards the event. So feel free to register on the events page at WRI website, as well as we will be reaching out to you separately through emails. So thank you everyone for joining us today.
Yep, and we'll have more mentorship this week.
Thank you everyone. Thanks for all the mentors. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye everyone.